Okay, welcome everyone. This is the fourth episode of Code Play with Bart Koymans and myself, Ricardo Joya. And in this episode, Bart will do a follow up on his holiday planner. Back to you, Bart.
Yes, in the first episode, I showed you the holiday planner app that I created, or just proof of concept with fiddling with the Azure Maps API. And this is where we ended. I've got some stops, the blue ones, which is an area of a road trip, and near every stop there are some locations worth visiting with a picture of such that you can choose which you would like to visit. But I would like to make this more appealing. So one other feature, two features actually that I'd like to show today. The first feature is an isochrone, which is a very difficult word for a polygon around some area that you can drive. So normally they are used for like you live in a city and you want to work within an hour's drive, so you can try to draw a polygon around your city on a map of everything that you can reach within an hour's drive.
Mhm.
Or the other way around, say you have work in some place and you want to move and to work within an hour's drive of your work, then you can draw a line or a polygon around, and just not a linear polygon to say, like a circle, but taking in considerations where are the roads and how much can you actually drive.
Mhm.
So the basics is doing it by car, but if you go to Google Maps or Bing Maps and you make a route, you could choose a bicycle or the public transport. I think those are in preview, but at least the car is working. I find it a very cool feature to add to such an itinerary of how much can we travel, and did I even pick the right stops or the right stops in the neighborhood of the locations in the neighborhood of stop. So where we left off was this little app, which is a copy paste of the Azure Maps API. And what I'm adding now is two scripts um, to be able to use spatial code. Spatial is just a word for geographical, um, it's called operations. So the stops are still the same. I've got some stops, I've got some locations near those stops for my itinerary. And then the isogone calculation goes with each stop. So what I'm drawing here is for the map when it's ready. I'm drawing the locations and I'm drawing the stops on the map. So that's what you saw. The blue ones are the stops and the colored ones are the locations to be grouped by a stop. So for each stop, what I would like to do now is calculate the isochrone, which is call. So the route URL is, you see the service object that we created before over here. These two lines actually create that app or object. And with the route URL, you can calculate a route range, which is an asynchronous request. So it's called a promise in JavaScript. And what you'll do is, what is the anchor, the basic location from where you're calculating, and then there's some object. So I'd like to travel by car, and this is 1800 seconds, so it's half an hour. So how far can I go by car in 1800 seconds? And draw me a polygon of that. So the result of this function, it's an asynchronous function, so I need to actually call it, but the result will be the polygon for each position. So each call, I'll create it into an array of promises. And then with that array, I'll execute them. So I'm a .NET developer. In there it's called async await. In here it's called promises. And so
You can also await promises.
oh well, I think that's technically what I'm doing in here, but then without the await. So how would that work then? Is that simply I wait and then
Yeah,
the
I'll
one
have
the array that I've got?
to see the implementation, and these days I'm using more RxJS, and I don't work with promises, but I know that you can await promises. Maybe we can do that in a further in another episode, that we can refactor this to use async await.
I'm not a great user of TypeScript, but in .NET I would do just one. Now I will do this is the result, and then await that method, and then the result is automatically there.
Yeah, I was just thinking how to do like when all TypeScript. And wait for all promises, because this is a range, right?
Yeah. So now what I've done is all the things that should be executed. So in this, it should be 4 stops, I think I have. The entire array will be executed. So for each execution, there is a result. Let me see. And then the problem is that geographically speaking, the polygon that you get is not a closed polygon. So it's just an area around it, but there's a teeny tiny space between the first and the last point. So the last thing you need to do is close the polygon. So there's the data for this isochrone that's calculated. I'll add an extra point, namely the first point, to close the polygon. And I extract the isochrone, put it in an array such that I could visualize it. Then actually adding it to the map is another layer. So we have a line layer for the lines between the stops. And we have another line layer for the locations itself. So here there's a polygon layer to view the polygon of the isochrone, and I've added a line layer which says there's a nice area, the boundary around it, so that you can see the boundary of the isochrone. So with this, I've extracted the isochrone from the API and putting it in an array. So this is an array of the isochrones that I've closed. These array of isochrones will be mapped on the map. And then when I will show this file, then this is what we had. And what I'll now have is this is half an hour's drive. So you'll see that for each stop within half an hour's drive, this is what you could reach. So for example, here there's a big national park, there are no roads, so you couldn't even go anywhere in here. For me, half an hour drive is not that much, so I'll take it into an hour. When I'm on holiday, I like to travel more to see stuff. Half an hour is very limited, so now I take 1 hour. You'll see the polygon will be bigger, but it's a mess now, so I've added a boundary such that you could see where's the end of each. So you could even say maybe my stops are too close to each other, but I think the stops are okay in here. It's just a matter of visualizing it. So what I'd now like to do is, what did I do? What I'd now like to do is add some colors such that you could distinguish the polygons from each other. So to do that, there is a stepped expression based on a color scale. So instead of the hard color that I created over here, I could pass in an expression. So now not the hard-coded color, but the stepped expression is that. And the definition of that expression is a default color and a color scale, which are defined in the beginning. So the default color is some color. And I nicked a color scale, which is green to reddish from green, yellow, orange, red, such scale. I nicked it from another example. I don't know why it should be this difficult format, but this is required for the step function. So the first step, the second step, the third step. When I apply this color scale, then you'll see it'll view each isochrone in another color, which is more fancy to show. You'll even see there's overlap in between. To make it even prettier, I'd like to use the color. Oh, for now, every pin is blue. And I'd like to say that every pin should have the same color as its isochrone. So I have an index counter and just take the color that is associated to that index. And when I'm now doing this, then the stop has the same color as the isochrone around it. I think this is a very beautiful way of using isochrones to enhance your holiday planner app.
Yeah, and another usage is that if you are looking for a new job, or if you are offered a new job, and you are planning to relocate to somewhere else, you can say how much time you want, or you can bear driving, and you can see where you have to find a place to live.
So if you would be living in here in the middle of Tipperary, then this is what you could reach in an hour. So Cork is just not inside an hour's drive.
The center, the city center.
The city center, yeah. No, not even Cork yet.
Yeah, now Cork goes until
the county, yeah.
Yeah. No, not the county. They increased the city limits. They included more towns. So now it's a bit bigger.
So this is well, the end of the first part I'd like to show. What's now up is that each stop is just the name of the stop. And if you'd like to make some visualizations on what's to do in there, you need to track everything that's to be done yourself. What I like to do is combine these loose things that are in the neighborhood of a stop. I've already calculated or manually calculated what is near to anything, and then I could show them bundled together. So that is what I'm doing in the next project. So to do that, I'm adding extra information to my database or JSON. So I need to group stuff. So every location is now grouped within a stop. So these first 5, 6 are Tipperary stops, and then there are Killarney stops, and there are other stops to group them. And I've added a shortening because now it's just in this case it's a generated name. So the F is for a family visit, the C is some castle, and the N is a nature-like visit. It's a waterfall or a cave. So I've added a shortening. I could have auto-generated them, but I felt safer of just hard coding the short names for each stop or location. And what I'm doing extra now is just adding the pop-up. So the pop-up I had before was a div with the name of the stop, which you saw here. So here's a stop. There's a div with the name of it. And what I'd like to do now is stick more information into that pop-up. So that's what I'm doing in here. Where is that? Yeah, so here. So I've added the stop attribute. Now I'm querying every locations for the stop I have over here. So the first stop, for example. And then every location in that stop, I'm just adding in a for loop. So it's a div of divs. So over here we had the name of the stop. And now we'll have the name of the stop again, followed by an array of divs of which locations are in there. And that array of divs is created over here. So each location has a name and a picture associated with it. And a picture. So these divs I accumulate in one container div, which is alongside the stop. When I do that in here, so again, this is just a white field with text in it. When I take the other div, you could even make it as big as you want.
Rich content.
So this is a 400 pixels div. I can add a color to it. So before I had the pop-up, it didn't have any color. It was just a plain pop-up. And what I'm doing now is adding the color as well, that the same color for the polygon or the isochrone. And I make it draggable such that you could drag it around to make it arrange more properly. So this one isn't draggable, it's just over here. Can I put it anywhere? This one is draggable, can put it anywhere. It's 400 pixels big now, and everything that is in this stop or in this stop, it has the same color as the isochrone. It has all the things that are to be done in that area. And then there's number 3. So these are actually, if you go around the clock, it's a nice itinerary. Start at the airport, get a rental car, drive to 1, do this stuff, drive to 2, do this stuff, and so on and so on. And actually that's what I did last month, last August. I did this itinerary, and it was a great fun to have the fun beforehand and in the planning and showing what to do when you're actually there.
Yeah. So you sold this to the family first, and then
yeah, I didn't need to sell it. Once they saw waterfalls and castles, they were already sold.
Okay. That's good. Okay, this is awesome. I'm thinking about a lot of ideas how to monetize this, but we'll do that discussion offline.
Yeah, before monetizing it, you could use it. I've put it on my GitHub account, GitHub Bartolomeo85. There is everything that's, if you want to learn what I did, is in that account.
Great stuff.
You could fiddle around with it yourself. And yeah, I'd like to make something bigger of this. There are lots of places with pictures that you could combine. Just make a drop down, select what you want to do, and create an itinerary everywhere. Yeah.
Awesome. Great stuff.
Yeah, so that's it for this episode. No, well, just see you in the next episode then. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, and see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.